Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to sunny Limerick. And I say that only semi-ironically this time. It is the European Ultimate Championships, and we are continuing with some open division action. Our first open action, actually, of the weekend. Behind us is Spain versus Israel, but we are going to be focusing on Denmark versus Switzerland. Benjamin Rees alongside Lou Burgess. I'm quite excited for this one.
First open division game of the weekend. Very exciting. Both these teams have potential to do some damage to some of the top sides in this tournament. I think Ian French put them both in the same tier in his tier list. I forget which tier that was, but could be a pretty spicy matchup.
Yeah, these are two teams I think that certainly can make their way into the top 8 potential if things break right for them. And, you know, we've got, a lot of club pedigree on this side. When we think of Switzerland, it's, Flying Angels and Frisbee. And for Denmark, of course, KFK, fresh off a top 16 finish at the World Ultimate Club Championships last year in Cincinnati. So, clearly, there is a lot of potential for some good results in here. Underway here, Denmark in the white with the black shorts beginning on offense. It is the black and the red shorts for Switzerland. Yamitslau. With Switzerland playing a zone, and so far, Denmark working through this quite comfortably. We have had some heavy wins already this week in Limerick, and if you watched our show games yesterday, I think that was borne out there. But it's relatively calm out there, and as such, Denmark not really having any problems so far, slicing and dicing their way through this zone.
Yeah, Switzerland just choosing to stay a bit loose at the front. And this is the first time Denmark have really punched through, but they're not gaining a huge amount of ground on it.
Just slowly matriculating the disc down the field at the moment, but really that's all they need to do. Here's the transition to the one-on-one defense. Bastien Grandpaul scored. Past the bidding defender into Loritz Yamitslau, and then into the end zone. A nice clean hold to start there for the Danes. Tobias Grandpaul's guard makes it 1-0.
Yeah, confident offense from Denmark to start out the game. Just working this comfortably around the back, marching down the field. We see some replays of them working it around the back. It's a close bid. You'd like to see that intensity on defense right at the start of the game.
Interesting with the assist there is Loris Yamitslau, and I've tried my best to pronounce his name. It's one of the harder ones to get my mouth around in Europe. But he's played kind of a lot of Ultimate in Denmark, coming all the way through the youth ranks as well, and has also kind of plied his trade elsewhere on the club scene, as well as at KFK. Played in the past with, as they were at the time, Kuz Blafossa, and is in London at the moment and will be playing with Smash D this season.
Quite the
handy pickup.
Yeah.
We'll see how Switzerland look on their first O-line of the game. The ball is just about going to land in bounds. So Denmark trying to pin Switzerland in their own end zone here. Swinging with Müller. Goes for the little short one there to Stoller. Zone, very much the order of the day to start from both sides. I must say everything looks very compressed for the Swiss, with the exception of Bush, who's trying to drag things out deep. Pretty much everyone was in the same vertical, 10, 15 yards or so. I think I'd probably like to see more aggressive and equal spacing.
Oh, absolutely. There's been no attempts to attack from behind the disc and try and get through this front line of the defense yet. As you see, almost there. There's that little pot pass.
Stoller going short to Schwarz. And again, they've made a fair few passes and so far gone nowhere with them. Still on their own end zone line, a bit of a reaching snag there for Dawn.
If they do work it the whole way up the pitch, particularly at this pace, it's going to be an impressive pass tally at the end of it.
We mentioned that the zone's not, the wind isn't particularly strong, so maybe not ideal zone conditions. Finally, they're able to break through with that hammer there to Aaron Riedler, and then with a little give through, there's enough pressure coming from Harbu to make sure that the disc grows to ground. An early break chance here for the Danes.
And this is what happens when you don't have that equal spacing downfield. One shot over the top completes, but that's all you get.
Mulgard, the brilliant layout there, sliding across the slick grass. In the hands now of Poulsen. Getting the reset off the front, a little bit of pop, but not a problem there for Bricks. So far, Denmark working it nicely in the red zone. Can they punch in for the early break? Squares up, resets, sliding snag there, made by Burr. A little bit of a miscommunication, and they couldn't quite adjust the feet quick enough, and the disc is given back to Switzerland.
Yeah, tried to just float it out there into space to let the receiver make the play, but it's not that easy. Grass is a little bit slippy from the rainfall we've had earlier.
Yeah, and when the body weight's going one way, it can be so difficult to get it going back in the opposite direction. Polmeyer going short here to Müller. I wonder if they might go to that overhead a little bit earlier in the possession, but so far, just going to dink and dunk it. There's a nice thread through. Now they're trying to get some jailbreak going. Red zone chance first of the game here for Switzerland. Dawn. Riedler trying to squeeze that one down the line on the far side, but the defender was ready and waiting, and Switzerland again getting the turn. Excellent block there by the Danish defender. It's getting a little bit warm now the sun's coming out.
A little bit.
Might actually take my jacket off.
Switzerland's spacing looked a lot better at that point. As you saw, once they got through the first line of defense, they made a lot more progress.
And a miscommunication maybe there. It was trying to jam the throw into a really tight window. Either way, it will give Switzerland the disc back with a perfect chance to punch in. Just going to be match here this close to the end zone from the Danes. The number 7, Schwarz, is able to punch it over the plane for the score towards the far side. Looks like Eugen Dorn makes it one apiece.
Yeah, not the clean hold we saw from Denmark, but Switzerland get the job done. It was a good defensive stand to get the turn back.
I think Denmark will be happy the fact that they generated the 2 turns, but especially with the first possession where they got very close to finding that break. Probably a little bit disappointed that they couldn't capitalise. Long game though, plenty of time left in this one.
Yeah, definitely. It's an encouraging start really for both teams. Denmark able to punch their first point in clean. And then Switzerland able to grind their way back from a few mistakes. And a few big defensive plays as well.
Yeah, 100-minute games to 15 here this week in Limerick, so the full kind of WFTF Championship rules appendix in play. Even though this is, of course, an EUF and EFTF event. Fielding the ball from the floor. First pass, sent us to Larson. More zone from the Swiss. This one looks to be a bit tighter towards that front line. So you put a bit more pressure on the disc, but if you can work it through, around, over, whichever way you choose to break it down, there is maybe a bit more space to work with once you can get past that front line. Yamitslau. Maybe a little bit of a pop-up there, but not a problem for the 2 Pools guards connecting. Both amazingly still under 24, despite how big they look. Bastion, in fact, is only 21 as they get the disc off the line, swinging, trying to utilise the full width of the field.
Good spacing from the Danes.
Paulsgaard finding the threads through. I like that they're varying the tempo, picking up the pace when they need to, but also happy just to take their foot off the gas at times rather than maybe rush some dicey looks. An aggressive break pass towards the far side. Bid comes through from the back, poaching off, and a foul is called.
Yeah, it looked like such a good look. The Force was putting a lot of pressure on, did well to get that breakthrough out, but the defense downfield had their heads up. They knew what was going on. But looks like uncontested foul is the hand signal.
Yep, accepted, so it will be the disc with Yamitslau on the end zone line. Julian Libishevsky was the defender who tried to come in there and get the block. Checks in, and a bump on the Force.
It's one of those unfortunate occasions where the thrower steps in one direction and the Force steps in the same direction at the same time.
Foul quickly accepted by Nev. Struggling to find the reset on the high stall and just squeezes that into the front corner to Nicholas Cummins to make it 2-1.
Well, after a few calls, the Danes do slot in the second offensive point without turning over. So, perfect game for their O-line so far.
Yeah, yet to turn it over. That is efficient. We'll see if, again, they can continue to generate the turns on defense and maybe make something of them. Certainly, that was a lot steadier of a possession, I think, for Denmark than their first offensive point. 23 passes it took for them compared to 8 first time round. With obviously both teams looking to employ zone, at least early on in this game, I think we will expect to see those points where the possession count, the number of passes, is going to be higher than maybe you'd see with a match defense.
Well, especially if Switzerland are going to play in just outside their own end zone for
Very true, yeah.
5 minutes. 29 passes before they turned over in that first offensive possession of the game.
And I don't think they got to midfield.
No, not quite. They threw the hammer just shy of midfield and then turned over, I believe.
Going with this backhand blading pull. Switzerland's going to elect to let it hit the floor and field it on the hop. First pass still within the end zone to Schwarz. Lucius Müller. Again, working within their own front and within their own end zone. How would you describe this defense that Denmark are playing as Switzerland adjust to make sure that catches in bounds?
Well, it's a zone, for sure. They're being fairly loose at the front, letting Switzerland go side to side. There's not a huge amount of pressure on the receivers from Switzerland who are further away from the disc, electing to put quite a lot of players in front of that disc, even if they are just allowing the Swiss to go from side to side, as after 10 or 15 passes, they've made about 2 yards.
Yeah, I think the synergy between the various sections of the field not in play there, and that one floats and is greedily gobbled up by Tarp. Shot from the Danish D-line towards the back of the end zone. Can it be chased down? No, I think maybe the back line was advancing there, and Kasper Merver knew that he was never quite going to get there.
Yeah, the back line very much got the better of Merver. But Switzerland, once again, chance to play against this zone.
Yeah, Denmark tried to finish it in one hefty blow.
I'd really like to see some more aggressive movement from behind the disc from Switzerland against this zone.
Well, maybe get those little slashes from behind. I also want to see more movement from the handlers. Don't just stand there after you're throwing it. Pass and move. Follow the disc. Keep driving at that front line.
but also more connections downfield. They get these passes through the front and then rarely have a threatening follow-up.
I think there might be a discussion about whether that disc was down. It seems to me like he got his hand underneath it. We will be able to get a second look at it. Oh, that's. I think it kind of just beat us in there. So I don't think there's any problem with that one. It's this follow-up there. It looks a little bit low, but I feel like he's got something underneath it.
Yeah, it's not obviously down. Not by any means.
I think you're within your rights to ask the question, at least. They are sending this back to Schwarz. But it will stay a Swiss disc. Dawn. Schwarz again. Just match defense now. And that bid is late and creates a lot of contact there on Müller. Let's see that cleaned up a bit. Schwarz going wide. And the drop. The so-called clap of doom for Chad Gerber.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Switzerland. They were looking pretty good at that point. Managed to make a lot of ground against the zone, but too many passes in the end, perhaps.
Stall count must be getting higher. Eventually, the break goes central to Rosendahl. Another deep shot. Again, Moore was the target. He's got the height match downfield, and it was in and out of his arm, and a foul is called on the contact from Severin Ries.
There was definitely contact, but at the same time, this was definitely catchable.
I mean, it felt like he had it in his hand and just... I was surprised he went up with one, to be honest.
Well, I sort of went up with 1.5. Both hands were lingering near the disc, but only one made contact in the end.
You might hear the whistles in the background. The volunteers from the tournament are just reminding players of time limits. But they are not hard and fast limits. It's going to be contested and sent back.
Not the best return pass.
No, and I wasn't enamoured with the call, but obviously it's a lot different when you're out there and you're maybe feeling the contact.
Yeah, it's very difficult to tell from the cameras a lot of the time how much contact actually occurred and whether it affected the player's balance or not.
We'll give players the benefit of the doubt. Trust that every call is made in good faith.
The real trick there on defense is to not make any contact at all and not give them any excuse.
Putting a lot of pressure on those resets, but it back in the hands of Larson, who's through the huck. Oh, a floaty one over the top. Sverker waits for it and back in his clutches now. Now breaking down the sideline here. Larson central. This is got a bit more rhythm and movement about it. The energy is up for the Danes. Now they're getting bogged down slightly as Bird takes the aggressive one down the line, and it works like a dream. Lau Larsen makes it 3-1. The first break of the game goes Denmark's way.
Yeah, it's impressive work from Denmark on that possession after this came back from the huck. Switzerland at the start were putting a lot of pressure on defense, but in the end they just didn't seem to have the legs to keep up with the Danes.
So far, the O-line for Switzerland has made 80 passes in their 3-0 points and only managed to get one in. By contrast, the Danish O-line, 31 passes, 2 scores, no turns, and 18 passes for the D-line. Obviously, they've turned it over a bit more, but they have got that all-important break.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the only stat that really matters is the score.
But what about the style points?
This isn't freestyle Frisbee, Benji.
Not with that attitude.
Need to get a committee on the sideline judging each throw, each catch, each point.
Right, I mean,
how would that work?
I'm not asking you to make every point, you know, glittering with glamour, but every now and again just throwing a little bit of swag for the fans. Denmark trying to trap Switzerland on the line here. Showing the scuba, wanting to put it away just now. That front line is in very close because the spacing is... They've got a player right in there. And it is an accepted stall.
Well, the disc was in his hands for quite some time. Not surprised by that.
Gong picks up. Can't get the reset free. Instead, trying to rifle it down the line. Too far for the bidding receiver. Back into Swiss clutches. Not the first time the Danish D-line have turned it over without actually managing to complete a pass.
Yeah, they seem to be struggling on those sideline tight space positions.
Not surprised to see Denmark stick with the zone after it got them the turn last time. And once again, it duly provides the turnover they were looking for. Poulsen. Nice plant there from Clemenson in the backfield. Trying to get that disc a little bit more away from the sideline where they've come into some trouble. Floating a little bit. Lay out with two hands. There's a stoppage.
There's a lot of contact between these downfield players. And both teams seem to be giving each other a little bit of argy-bargy.
I was looking as to where that phrase came from. Apparently it's old Scots. Originally it was argle-bargle, which I think is a lot funnier, so I might start using it. Contested foul. Going to go back here into Peter Gong's hands. Trying to find the inside through. It's not really there. The reset doesn't uncover in time, and it thunks off the hands there of Clemenson. Danish D-line offense struggling to move it a bit as Switzerland this time wanting to try and stretch the field vertically. The defender has position there, and Emil Poulsen duly provides the block that the positioning deserved.
Yeah, it's never really in doubt unless a gust of wind brought it up to sail over the defender, but
have to be alert to that in these conditions.
Yeah, with Denmark with a lot of work to do, and they will opt to take the timeout to gather their thoughts before they try and attempt this full pitch conversion. Yeah,
a decision that makes a lot of sense to me because their D-line offense hasn't been clicking, even though they have been very good at generating the turns. And I think for Switzerland, it'll nice give their O-line a nice chance to try and clean some things up as well. 3-1 Denmark lead here, having taken a timeout, looking for another break. Denmark 3, Switzerland 1, coming off this timeout here at EUC, the European Ultimate Championships Open Division action. Both of these sides are in Pool D. Yeah, which is the 3-team pool. Belgium is the other side.
Oof.
So I think Belgium will almost certainly be favourites to top the pool. So for Denmark and Switzerland, this game, you know, has a little something riding on it. Obviously, there will be power pools and reseedings afterwards, but you always want to give yourself the best possible chance.
Yeah, it's a long week, and there's generally quite a few opportunities to come back, especially if you go down a game earlier in the week.
And speaking of going down, that is exactly What the rain is doing right now is the clouds have opened, but the weather has tended to pass through so far today, despite the fact that it's nowhere near as windy as we saw yesterday. Nice switch passed off defensively there by the Swiss defense, and with the still count rising, got to find a way to get this off or juke the defender out there with the fake. And there was a big collision actually as both players bid on that. Brix was the Danish player. It looks like Severin Ries was the Swiss defender. All seem good to continue. And the Swiss O-line has played very good defense after the turn. They've not really allowed those those quick possessions that I think Denmark want. Harbu comes underneath. Now Clemenson. Again, trying to manipulate cutters with his fakes. Goes with the break around to the far side to Gong. Pick called.
Yeah, Denmark just not able to gain any ground. Switzerland doing a great job of pinning them back on their own end zone line.
Sun is still bursting through the clouds despite the rain, so expect a lot of rainbows, and I'm not just talking about the flags in the booth or Dice's umbrella. Dice is our statistician for this game. Looking for the break around the far side, didn't find it. Instead going central to Clemenson. Showing the big, putting it back in the locker though. Poulsen. Very congested towards this near sideline. Trying to find the break into the centre. A sliding snag is made there under tight pressure from Harbo. Checks everyone's okay before he picks himself up to his feet. Brix. Continuing the break side flow. Now they're getting a little more room to work with. Wrenches an inside-out flick deep. He's looking for Clemenson. Oh, he misread it at first, and I thought he was going to have the second opportunity, and he calls the foul. What a put that was, by the way. I mean, he really yanked that inside-out flick.
Oh, it's a fantastic throw. Going to have another look at what happened on the other end of it.
I'm surprised that he didn't make the bid for it anyway, just in case.
Accepted foul call is the result there.
So it will come to the front of the end zone line here to Clemenson. Denmark right ready for another break, and they get it as well. Punched in on the very first pass afterwards. 4-1 now, the Danes lead.
Well, I guess the timeout did the job. They managed to march the full way of the pitch.
Just get the 1-on-1 in the end zone. Now it's the number 4, Lau Harbu, who makes the catch for the score. Someone getting some stretching. I'm not sure that's what I'd be doing in this weather.
Rain bathing.
It's a choice. Isn't that just bathing?
Yeah, but worse.
Fair. Rain is beginning to, continuing rather, to patter down here. Not the deluge we've seen at points already in the last few days. Various teams doing what they can to try and combat the way the wet weather drags you down. You know, you find ways to try and keep yourself warm and energized. You know, make sure that you're keeping yourself as comfortable as possible when you're not on the field. I know that in our house which is of course the glamorous Studio 55, we've instituted a firm shoes off in the hallway policy.
Very sensible.
It's what we decided that, look, we were out here for World Masters last year as well. Indoors is probably the one safe place we're going to get from the weather, so let's keep it as clean as possible. And I imagine a lot of these teams will probably be having similar ideas. We need to make sure that we are as comfortable as we are when we're not playing, because when we are playing, the conditions could be unfavourable. There is a lot more urgency about this possession, though, from Switzerland, and already they are beyond midfield. Lovely find through, spacing apart that front line into Klaus, and now they are really picking up the tempo here. You love to see it, Lou.
Yeah, spacing looking a lot better at this point.
Few yards away, Ebinger going back to Nev on the far sideline. Philly, there's a pick.
You know, it's that time. As soon as they got that first pass through the wall, there was someone right there to follow up, and that's how you eat the yards up against the zone.
Yeah, you don't think about necessarily getting it all in one, but just slowly, just like pinballing it until it takes a while for the defense to get back into position. We used to call it running the gauntlet in drills. Nev goes back to Ebinger. And now a few yards out. Faking the flick, though, is Bergeron. And does eventually find the scoring pass. Switzerland offense back on the board. And their first clean hold of the game to boot as well, making it 2-4.
Yeah, they must have had a conversation on the sideline about what to do against this zone. And they've come up with the answers. That was a lot better. They kept the disc moving around the back, but once they found that first pass through, they kept it moving, stayed connected to those downfield players, and eventually found their way into the end zone.
Using that dad backhand to good effect. They're the so-called backhand to the forehand side.
It's an essential throw.
Quinberger on the American originally. Played for DC out in the pro game, and also for Virginia Volt, who I believe are wearing their resplendent lavender jerseys at Pro Elite Challenge East this weekend. A much more minimalist look for Switzerland. Low layout, but successfully secured from the 21-year-old Bastien Grand Paul scored. Struggling maybe to find a way through. Cummins comes towards the disc. Yametslau takes off. All that throw is going to blade, but Yametslau read that brilliantly. A pick, I think, probably won't affect that throw, but everyone is probably going to have to go back a bit to affect the continuation.
Yeah, got just enough spin on that disc for it to not fade into the ground and instead get over the top of the defender.
Everyone's just going to get back into position. And they might be deciding that it did affect. And normally in a situation like this, you think, I'm not sure Denmark would like that. But actually, given that everyone was out of position, they might think, you know what? Actually, it's not too bad.
Gives them another chance to put some more spin on that flick. There we go.
Well, you called for it, and it happened. Again, trying to lead towards the break side. Yametslau accelerates towards it, finds the extra burst. Dump tries to shuttle and scuttle their way free, going for the high release over the top. Oh, it was awkward, but I think that was certainly catchable for Anderson. And an injury is called. Looks like Christiansen is going to have to come off.
Yeah, slightly tragic end zone possession there. Absolutely no one back behind the disc. Giving support. Had to go for that slightly crazy blade backhand. As you say, it was definitely catchable.
Not a perfect throw, but it could and maybe should have worked. So first time the Danish O-line has surrendered the disc. Can Switzerland make the most of this opportunity that they have been presented with?
No.
Apparently not, because they cannot even make the first pass work. Danish O-line again with another chance. Going all the way across the end zone and dropping beautifully into the bread basket to make it 5-2.
Yeah, complete busting coverage from Switzerland on the turnover. and well punished by Denmark. Not entirely sure what happened on Switzerland's offensive chance. Seems to be like just a bit of a miscommunication maybe. Kind of threw it to no one.
And everyone kind of converges and congeals the front section of the end zone. And actually it's good recognition by both the thrower and the receiver to think, oh, well, I'm free, so I just kind of don't need to do a lot here. Just wait till we've got that eye line connected, and then they can just sit it out to space for the score. It's positively warm now. Take back everything I ever said about sunny Limerick.
Oh, there's still time.
Maybe not everything. So 35 minutes gone so far in this contest. Denmark leading 5-2. Here in the Open Division Pool D. First game of the week for both of these sides. Looking to get things off with a bang. Not a surprise given how effective it's been so far, but more zone coming out from the Danish D-line. This is the O-line we saw Switzerland start the game with. I wonder if they've maybe taken a little bit of a note from some of their other players, and we'll try and pick up the pace here. The mulleted Kadamian towards the far side, and that is a true old-school mullet. Again, they do seem to be keeping the stall counts a little bit lower here. Haven't found a way to really crack their way through so far, and there is the movement from behind that you were calling for. It does seem like there's a bit more panache about the possession.
Well, they're certainly gaining some ground. And that's what happens when you spread the field wide enough and position your handlers in front of the disc. I think one of the issues they were having in earlier possessions was the handlers were all in line with the disc or behind it.
Wonderful layout there on the floater to Müller. Back to Gadamian here. They have managed to finally stifle a bit of rhythm. But Switzerland do have those free resets available, and they are being disciplined about just keeping the disc reset, and then waited a little bit too long. The layout came through from Clemenson, but Bush thinks he had it. Clemenson disagrees, and they're quickly going to contest it and send it back.
Can't argue with that.
Quick game's a good game, I guess. I wonder if having kind of this the first time we've really seen them try to take that shot through that front line, and it was very nearly burgled away from them. So I wonder if they go back to that. Bush on the far side. Now the swing was a little bit offline. Brilliant layout. The quick, lightning quick, cat-like reactions and reflexes coming out of the number 10 Larson. Just almost bore that one out there of Switzerland. Throw and go from the handler set for Sverker. Cutter comes down the line, frees up the space for the inside, but there is a pick. And I don't think Vandemara is going to get the chance to keep this. Is indeed going to go back to Larson. Can he power Denmark to another break, having generated the turn with that layout block? Nice little shake and bake to get free down the line there from the big man Clemenson. Wanting to dish that into a very small space, but the simplest of passes for the score. Clemenson to Larson, another Danish break. They are rocking and rolling now at 6-2.
Impressive stuff from Denmark. They stayed strong with their zone, and all it took was for Switzerland to mess up their spacing one time. That handler set got a bit too spread out. And even though that swing pass was definitely on, it was just a little bit underthrown, too close to the defender. Good layout block. And some good disciplined offense to finish it off and get the break. And that has prompted a timeout from Switzerland.
Yeah. Understandably so, I think. Heard the shouts of Dan Mark coming from the sidelines as well. Nice little call and response action going on. 6-2 here. Switzerland in a bit of a hole, live at the European Ultimate Championships.
We are Hive Ultimate, a group of players and coaches from all over the world working together to progress the next generation of Ultimate strategy. We've helped top teams win world championships and new teams introduce the sport in a fun and inclusive way. Search for Hive Ultimate on YouTube to learn more about our cutting edge strategies and to see analysis of world-class teams. To find out what Hive can do for your team, head over to our Patreon page where you can gain access to our exclusive drills and session plans and to join our worldwide community of coaches. Get ahead of the curve with Hive Ultimate.
ulti.TV live here at the European Ultimate Championships in association with our friends and sponsors, including the, silky smooth voice on that last advert, whoever that may have been, I'm not sure.
Yeah, don't recognize him.
6-2 Denmark lead here, having Switzerland in a real bind. A floating pull towards this near sideline. I think that's going to go out for a brick. And it is indeed. We'll see whether they choose to take the brick or go from the sideline. Brick is signalled by the number 7, Mark Schwartz.
Switzerland really need to punch this one in confidently. Otherwise, I feel like it's all too easy for Denmark to run away with this one.
It's stiller than it has been at least yesterday, but this is the nominal downwind direction. Was a little bit offline, but Polmeyer adjusted well. Schwartz sees the pass, the slashing on passant cut from behind from Stoller. Polmeyer, they're really finding ways to slice their way through. Polmeyer finds an option wide open. Severin Ries makes it 6-3. That was a much better possession from Switzerland.
Yeah, that's just what Switzerland needed after that timeout call. They recollected themselves, got their focus levels back up, and punched that in nice and confidently.
Yes, Denmark changed that zone a little bit defensively. There was kind of less of the flat sag at the front, and you had that forcing a little bit tighter. And I think it maybe beckoned Switzerland to be, actually, we can just be aggressive and try and break this like we would a normal force. I like Denmark kind of tinkering and tweaking things, trying not to let Switzerland get into a rhythm, but they seemed very adept at dealing with that defense.
Yeah, Switzerland made it look like there were many more holes in that zone than the previous one.
And every defense will have holes in it somewhere. The question is, can you find them and can you exploit them? (6-3) Denmark lead. Offense getting back out there on the field. Cummins Denmark already at midfield. Do seem like there's a bit more energy about their offense. Oh, it was tipped. And all that Mac line practice comes in handy as Anderson lays out. Catches it in those gloved hands. I think one of the differences we've seen so far is that when Denmark go back and forth and pendulum-like swing their way down the pitch, it does feel like they are gaining some field position as they do so.
Yeah, really good disc movement. They're also finding a few shots through the wall as well.
Anderson to Cummins. Transition into the one-on-one defense. They find the option, and that little Oyo throw, slight bit of outside in edge on the throw through the inside-out channel is on target. Sebastian Graham-Polsgaard makes it 7-3. Still just the one turnover for Denmark's O-line so far, Lou.
Yeah, they're looking pretty untouchable late into this first half. And Switzerland's zone is not really getting the job done for them. Unlike Denmark's, where it has been causing a lot of problems for Switzerland.
I think the pace about Denmark's movement against the zone is better. They trying to keep the stall count a bit lower, changing those angles of attack. And what I also like is that when Switzerland have transitioned, and I don't think generally the transitions have been, you know, at the wrong times or badly passed off, but I like that they're not rushing it instantly, trying to take advantage of what seem like spaces while everyone's getting into positions. But also they are doing the mental maths of am I seeing the field as a whole? Am I counting the number of defenders so that I know whether the throw is actually on or whether I've just missed someone lurking somewhere?
Yeah, they look very comfortable on the disc, very in control. Even when they seem to tip the disc, someone's there to rescue it, and that's a dropped pull.
That is the last thing that Switzerland needed, a glorious opportunity to break into half. Sverker picks up. Handler clears through. There's no support in the backfield now. Clemenson provides an option, and they run the up line cut for the score. Clemenson goes into Sverker. 8-3, Denmark leading at half, and that is a cruel way for the Swiss to give up another break.
Just as Switzerland were looking confident on offense, they dropped the pull, and it was a decent pull as well. That field position from Denmark would have been criminal for them to give up that.
I mean, there are some points when you see players catching a pull and you think that was not a secure catch, it's going over your head or it's going at speed, but that one's kind of relatively into the gut. It is so heartbreaking, soul-crushing a little bit when they happens, and it can be so difficult to flip that switch and play defense again, and they ran the give-go there beautifully. 8-3, Denmark leading Switzerland at half-time in this game here in the Open Division at the European Ultimate Championships.
We are a group of ultimate players, coaches and video enthusiasts. We've worked with the major federations and the greatest events.
We're on a mission to make Ultimate huge. We want our videos and live streams to be free to watch.
We want to make stories that not only reach you,
but also reach people outside the Ultimate community.
Like and subscribe, ulti.TV, the best in the world.
become a member, and
find
fund
our
our
work
work.
to cover more events in the future and to bring more stories and live coverage to the eyes of the ultimate world and beyond.
Lovely grab out.
Second half action about to get underway here at EUC 2023, the European Ultimate Championships, hashtag EUC 2023 for those of you who are social media inclined. Hello to everyone watching at home, whether you're here in Ireland, maybe watching back in Switzerland or Denmark, and viewer from Burundi, we see you in the chat. Love that people are tuning in from wherever it may be, live, wild and free here on ulti.TV. Benjamin Rees alongside Lou Burgess in the booth in what is genuinely sunny Limerick for you. Tell us this tale of that first half, Lou. Feels like Denmark have, I mean, they found something that works and they are kind of really pouring it on a little bit here on Switzerland.
Well, the real story for me in that first half is Denmark's offensive efficiency. They are not too keen on giving the disc away. Switzerland, on the other hand, have been far from perfect on offense, and they did not help themselves with a dropped pull for the final point of the half, giving Denmark an easy opportunity to break.
Switzerland will be receiving to begin the second stanza of this contest in the left-hand end zone, in the mirror of what we had in the first half. And we'll see if they can maybe try and diagnose some of the defects that they found offensively there, and see if they can dial up some different looks defensively as well to cause more pressure onto the Danish O-line, which, as you mentioned, has given up the disc on just one occasion from their 4-0 points so far in this game.
The real question at the start of the second half is, can Switzerland recompose themselves on offense? Towards the end of that first half, before they dropped the pull, they did look a lot better on offense. And if we can see some more play like that, then that could be the ticket back into this game.
So Switzerland getting ready to receive the ball to begin the second half. Emil Christiansen is going to pull. I won't tell you what his Danish nickname means in English because I like my job, but I think his girlfriend has been very unkind to him. Going back with this quite flat front three that's designed to force those lateral passes. There's a little thread through to Jordi. Gaugler goes back to Willi. And just working on swinging and shuttling the disc back and forth. Gaugler. Again, finding the little option into the centre to Bergeron. beyond the front line again. Now they're trying to run the jailbreak before the Danish defenders can get set. There's a player open in the end zone. And if he just holstered for a second longer, he could have bounced that cut back into the centre, but Gallagher has his hands up in apologies because he knows that was a glorious chance gone begging.
Such good offense up until that point, but slightly rushed thrown into the end zone. It's not what Switzerland needed. And Denmark have looked so good with the disc in their hands. You have to favour them going this direction in particular. Wind in their backs.
Little dish underneath there, a bit of contact, and I think that is going to cause a stoppage. Quickly accepted. Denmark looking for a break that would really assert their dominance in this contest. Coming underneath the mustachioed Emil Poulsen. A couple of players make that same option down the line, and they are squeezing it down this far side so far. Bit of air put underneath it by Peter Gong towards the end zone. A couple of players battle for it, and it was tipped out of the hand of Christiansen. When you're getting up there and you're getting a hand to it, I think he'll probably be a little bit disappointed that he couldn't bring it down.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a great play. It's one of those instances where I feel like he's got enough vertical to be able to go for that with two hands. Have a slightly more secure catch. But as it stands, it was a drop.
Denmark trying to trap the Swiss offense on the line here. And obviously there's the early urgency to get it into a more central position, give yourself both sides to work with. Slowly piecemealing their way through this possession. They've been a bit more effective at finding the options through, but so far that seems to be the MO to really crack the things open. We're not seeing any of those over-the-top shots. Now finally get it through, and they're trying to pick up the pace, and in doing so float the pass and float it right into the hands of the receiver Vili, who was definitely 100% the intended target. That one just past the bidding defender. Jordi stuck the catch well. On this sideline, again trying to shoot for the end zone. Ebinger, it fell right into Bergeron's lap in the end to make it 8-4, but maybe I think fortune favoured the Swiss there.
Yeah, they got a little bit lucky on that point. You have to feel, with Denmark dropping it in the end zone on their offensive possession. And then they did work at the full length of the field, but it could have easily been blocked on multiple occasions. But perhaps that sort of point is just what Switzerland need to give themselves some confidence, to make sure that they have the belief to stay in this game. So it's far from over. And even though Switzerland have yet to break Denmark's offense, anything could happen.
Of course, you can't get those breaks going unless you can get the hold in that's going to give you the opportunity to start on defense. So that's the first part of the equation solved for Switzerland. Ball that picks up speed and then just tails out at the end. Fielded cleanly. Zone again from Switzerland. Larsen. Denmark again just trying to slice their way through. They're being, I think, a bit more aggressive at taking on those sides past the front line, and they're already advancing towards the red zone. Cummins goes back to Tobias Graham Poulsgaard. Yametslau. In the red zone now, against the transition to the single coverage. A floater that goes up high, and the big man, Tobias Graham Poulsgaard, brings it down for 9-4.
Denmark grinding out the upwind point. They had to work for it a bit at the end. So we have another look. Content to work it up that far sideline. Here's the high pass. 2 receivers underneath it.
It's a good read.
Good read.
He doesn't get suckered into getting too far underneath it like a lot of the pack was. And it's easier said than done to be like, oh, I'll just, I'll trust it. Because even if you're like, no, I'm sure it's going here, when you see everyone else going somewhere else, you're like,
yeah,
was I wrong?
And Poulsgaard barely even jumped to catch that in the end. Just had the better possession. Don't really need to jump if you're just in the right place.
Also, being a big body doesn't hurt.
Yeah, there's some real imposing figures on this Danish side. And we've seen that play to their advantage in some of these high floaty passes, particularly in the end zone. Oh,
and
no.
Another drop pull.
There wasn't even really an attempt to catch that one.
No, I think he went for it and then maybe got the call, Libashevsky, to leave it to someone else. And couldn't bail out in time. They will pick up right on the end zone line. And there is a stoppage.
Yeah, some contact in the end zone.
Try and get this one-on-one down the line. And you can see the player tumbling to the turf. Still count communicated back in play. Can't quite get it off the line at the first opportunity. They can at the second. Clemenson, a little bit of toe drag swag there at the front of the end zone from Sverker. Makes it 10-4. And Denmark feel like they've got maybe inside the Swiss heads a little bit now.
Yeah, the Swiss are just collapsing. Like 2 dropped pulls in one game is 2 more than we usually see. Let's take another look.
I think he was going for it and then maybe got the call like, actually no.
Yeah.
But couldn't get out of the way in time. Once you've got yourself in position, you've just got to commit, I think.
So I have a hot take, Benji.
Go ahead.
Catching the pull is overrated.
I've got a hot take. Catching the pull is underrated. The thing, I think if you, there are some pulls where it's certainly not worth taking the risk, but a pull like that, it is eminently catchable, and I think it is worth, if you get your offensive spacing correct, getting the disc in play quickly, moving it while the defense is still adjusting. But I'd be interested to hear your counterpoint.
My counterpoint is that turnovers are bad.
Right, so just don't turn it over.
Yeah, so don't catch the pull. Just let it hit the ground and
No,
play.
Because the turnover's more likely to happen if you wait the time for the pull to drop. That's the theory anyway.
Well, yeah, so on the one hand, the defense is going to be more set up if you take the time to pick up the pull. And I'm glad they break this so we have more time to talk about this.
Yeah.
It's very convenient, isn't it? Really what they should have done is called a timeout, but it's all right. We'll feed this back to the teams later.
Tactical analysis, yes, I agree.
But assuming that your offense is good, you should be able to work it out of your own end zone, even if you let the pull drop and let the defense set up. So what's the point?
But if your offense is good, then you should be catching the pull.
Well, you don't need to catch the pull. You can just play at your own end zone, and then don't turn over on a drop pull like that. Anyway.
There are some pulls where absolutely I see people catching them and I think, no way. As the flying layout comes through there from Emil Christiansen, that is superb work. And that is a Danish D-line that is full of confidence right now. There is no force at the moment, but struggling to find a continuation option. Fakes the one down the line. Now the rising stool squeezes in towards the sideline. You can see the back foot planted firmly in bounds. 3-4. Rosendahl finds Harbo for his second goal of the game. 11-4 now as the heavens have opened. Rather ominously for Switzerland.
Denmark evidently don't need Switzerland to drop the pulls for them. They can go out and get blocks.
What a block as well.
Oof.
The throw's a little bit behind Gitami, and it needs to be kind of towards that outside shoulder rather than the inside, but it was not a particularly large window that he absolutely stormed through.
That's all good defenders need, is one slight mistake on the throw.
And it's a sign of a side playing with confidence, right? Taking that bid on, thinking, I am going to get this.
Oh, yeah.
The temperature drops as the sun goes back behind the heavy grey clouds that have decided to pour their precipitation upon us.
Should probably take my sunglasses off.
No. I'm keeping mine on now. Committed. Commit to the bit, Luke.
Yours aren't very dark, though. I've got quite dark sunglasses.
No, they're I didn't realise when I bought them that they're also quite see-through from the other side. Patrick FM of WFDF kindly described me as looking a bit like Ali G, which I took as a huge compliment.
Oh, well, you have to.
Pool rolling out the back, so Switzerland will get to bring it from the front of their end zone. Again, unenviable field position. Gilles Neve.
See, Denmark haven't even given them an opportunity to drop the pull on these last few attempts.
And it is really hammering the fields with rain. Not a great time to be able to having to try and fix some things and find a massive comeback. There does, however, seem to be a bit more purpose on this possession for Switzerland. Things seeming a little bit crisper and more deliberate.
And their spacing looks good as well. They've always got a couple players connected to the thrower.
Bergeron's been very influential in finding their spaces behind that front line. Villi wants it again. Defense collapses central and going out wide. Just in the end, chased it all the way down into the breadbasket. Klaus finds the option through. Caselli. Back to Klaus. Communication from Danish defenders trying to pass receivers off. And now shooting down the line, a little bit undersold, but Jordi goes to his knees to keep it up, and then it is threaded through from Gaugler, in fact, excuse me, for the score.
That's more like it, Switzerland. Despite awful field position to start the point, despite the Denmark zone that's been causing the problems all game long, they do work it the full length of the pitch into the slight headwind. It's not as windy as it has been at other points in this game, but
that was the layout from the previous point. And the score, they punched it in down the line.
Yeah, impressive work from Switzerland to pick their heads up and march to this the full length of the field, despite the suboptimal conditions.
I mean, you could certainly say that. Here is the repeat of that score. Gaugler just finding the option through, and I think Switzerland, they're just trying to keep themselves pumped up and energized, because when things aren't going your way, and especially when things aren't going your way atmospherically as well, with the conditions being what they are, it is difficult to get yourself, energized and keep yourselves mentally engaged and active. Can't let the rain beat you down as it beats down on the fields. Cummins underneath. And there is just a simple drop from Spelborg. opportunity now for a Swiss break. Would be their first of the game if they could punch it in. Only the second turnover from Denmark's O-line. Underneath, low grab secured by Bush. Bush wanting to blade it towards the back corner, and despite the layout attempt, it will go back to the Danes.
That's a big missed opportunity for Switzerland. They'd still have a long way to go to come back in this game, even if they punch that in, but you have to start somewhere.
Yep. Would have been a start. One of the Grahams swings it to the other, Bastian to Tobias. A layout. Again, the two of them just like they're playing catch in the backyard at the moment. There's one with some air underneath it. Drops right into the bread basket.
I like that look off.
Me too. And Yametslau is going to get a much easier shot as a result, rather than trying to cram it down the sideline when the receiver is running directly away from you. Would have been such a difficult throw to execute. Taking the extra pass pays dividends. 12-5.
Yeah, the initial deep shot, it's a little bit speculative out the hands, but worked out nicely.
It's a bit of a strange one. I'm not sure whether that was who he's actually trying to hit, or it was the player who in the end received the goal there. Bastian Graham Paul scored. But either way, it worked, and taking the extra pass proved a good move.
Yeah, that lead pass into the end zone from that position. Sure, it's 1 versus 1. Sure, there's vertical separation. But lead passes into the end zone to wide open receivers are the hardest passes in Ultimate. So taking an extra pass to make it even easier is absolutely the right thing to do, especially when that extra pass was so wide open itself.
I don't know. I feel like maybe a pitch length thumber going into a blazing headwind is harder, but what do I know?
Don't catch the pull.
Yeah, no.
Good strat.
It was. I think when the disc is wet and slippery, you've dropped a couple this game, and it's coming at a bit of an angle. I get that. It makes sense to me. Floated out in front of Bergeron. Finds the inside channel. Ebinger again putting some sit on these throws to Gaugler. Just matched from the Danes as they continue to shuffle through their defensive options. Force sits off to try and stop the break throw. Cutter bounces back towards the open side, puts it out into space, and well weighted for the score. Jakob Ebinger gets his second goal of the game to go along with an earlier assist, and it is 6-12.
Very nicely done for Switzerland once again. They've figured out how to play offense this game. Unfortunately, it might be a little bit too late. So get another look at that beautiful pass into the end zone. Right into the spot where the defense wasn't covering. Enough air underneath it to make the catch easy. And if only they played like this a bit earlier on, we might have a serious game on our hands.
Yeah, it feels like it might be a case of too little too late, but until that final point goes in, you never know. Comeback is still very much a possibility.
Denmark do have to score 3 more points. I know that sounds obvious, but on the flip side, if Switzerland can work out how to stop them from scoring, 3 points suddenly becomes a tall order.
And you do see those big shifts of dynamic in between and during games. I've seen much bigger comebacks happen than this, but the way Denmark are playing, it's a very tall order. Nearly dropped that one, but able to just kind of pour it back into his grasp. Hansen. Switzerland going match from the start. Finding the option towards the far side. Spellborg. Didn't want the break as the rain begins to ease off here, mercifully. And that, I think a pick was coming maybe for a while during that possession.
I'm surprised it didn't come earlier, honestly. The stack is extremely tight, and The cutters are moving very close to each other.
Underneath Yumitslow. One option clears out. Provides the option for the handler to come up the line. Pumps the fake, does Larson. Squeezes the inside through. Now they're sending it out to space. A little bit of a floater. Defender might be able to get there first. It is knocked out of the far sideline by Lucius Müller.
Fantastic defensive play. Just a slight execution error on that throw. The wind takes it, sails over the heads of the receivers.
I mean, we spoke about taking the extra pass on the previous possession for Denmark. That time, I think, saw the opportunity for the score and wanted to get it in quick there, rather than maybe taking the sure thing in continuing the flow underneath. A little bit behind, but good adjustment made by Dawn, and Dawn sits a beauty out there deep. It looks like Yumitslow has the position. Oh, but it is tipped and caught at the second attempt by Severin Rees. A Swiss break there, first of the game, makes it 7-12. A sting in the tail here, perhaps.
Well, the break train has left the station. Whether it gets to all of the required stations necessary for Switzerland to win this game is another matter, but you have to start somewhere. And that's some confident offense after the block from Switzerland. Let's take another look at this catch. Definitely just maxed that to make the catch easier. Definitely didn't drop it the first time.
Hey, it works.
Score's a score.
You are allowed to mac it to yourself. You can't do it in order to advance the disc.
Yeah.
In order to make the catch easier, you can. And at any rate, I don't think that was intentional. And even if you do mac it to yourself to gain field position, it's just a travel and not a turnover.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely allowed to mac the disc to yourself in order to avoid a defender. So tipping it over a defender that's coming to get a block and then catching it again, even if that's deliberate, is absolutely legal.
Are you still a certified game advisor, Lou?
Oh, it's been 7 years since I game advised the game.
And the rules have changed, what, twice in that time?
At least once. They changed in 2020, so they would have changed in 2016 as well, end of 2016. So yeah, 2 changes.
But you never lose it. All these players will have had to get, I think, a rules accreditation for this tournament.
Quite right.
I make sure I go through one every season as well, just to make sure that I'm keeping my interpretations up to date. And I've downloaded a handy app as well. So having been broken for the first time, will this fluster and phase the Danish offense? Not so far on this possession. Handler clears out deep. There's the double coverage. It's sat up there, but sat up there perfectly to be brought down by Poulsgaard to make it 13-7.
Well, Denmark 2 points away from the victory now. And Switzerland really needed to get at least a turnover in that point. It's looking like a task too much for this Swiss side to come back in this game now, but
just good recognition on that offense there, because a couple of players came in to bracket that reset pass, saw that, took the option, floated it over the top, where the receiver was always going to have position on the weak side. And just 2 points away from victory now, the Danes. What's been a relatively consummate performance. They'll have been disappointed to have given up that break, but only the 3rd turnover from their own line this game.
yeah, strong performance from Denmark for sure. We'll give them some confidence going into the later stages of this tournament. Of course, we expect the Belgium sides to take fairly comfortable victories over both these teams, but anything could happen.
This ball's going to sit and land comfortably in the grasp of Switzerland.
See, I feel that could have been a brick if he'd not caught it.
I think it could well have gone out of bounds, but wanting to get things going quickly. There's the shot deep towards the back of the end zone, and the back of the end zone going to win, and very nearly a hefty collision there with the barriers at the back.
Not the heftiest we've seen today.
I heard that there was a pretty nasty one in the Poland-Lithuania game you were commentating last round.
Yep, several barriers fell over. No one was hurt, though.
That's the important thing. I'm sure those barriers will be more than the requisite 3 meters away.
Oh, there's a sizable gap between the back of the end zone and those barriers. I feel like they're there more to stop spectators getting too close than anything else.
Those damn spectators. Don't they know they can watch all of EUC live and for free at home on ulti.TV? Past a bidding defender. There's a stoppage though. I think a travel called, saying maybe that he was rounding the corner as he was catching the disc. Travels retracted, and he's going to stay here with Emil Christensen. Everyone's just going to go back to where they were. Checked in. Gerber on the force, tries to keep them towards this sideline, but they find a little bit of lateral space. Defender falls over. No mark here on Brix. Can't quite capitalize. Squares up, breaks around. Cutter's taking off deep, but the reset's going to Brix instead. Again, faking the backhand, wanting to break the force. Now a bit of throw and go action. Oh, it was floated behind, but Brix caught well. Van der Merwe can't get it out quickly enough. And another call.
Another rounding the corner travel call.
So just waiting for the players to resolve this discussion. It's going to go back here to Kasper Merwe. The sun is blazing now here in Limerick. Sticky reset coverage. High stall option, tries to thread it through to no one in particular.
Yeah, didn't have a lot to work with as the stall count got high there.
Stoller picks up. Takes the backhand option to Nicholas Bush. Floated into the center. Now there's the deep shot. Bush is going. He's got a couple of steps there. The hat comes down and he accelerates towards the end zone for the score. And Bush makes it 8-13.
And hurdles the fence to the left of our shot.
That's what I was waiting for.
I was a bit worried when that disc went up that it was going to fade out of bounds, but somehow it did not. It held its edge, just about stayed in bounds, even though it was fading away from the receiver. Well run down.
Yeah, the Eurodisc does have that stability in the air.
So it's fading left ever so slightly, but not too much. A good shot. Well recognized that there was a bit of a gap in Denmark's coverage. They had two defenders chasing, but neither of them were really anywhere near it. Here we get to see the hurdle. Good takeoff. Landing needs work.
Marks out 10?
6.
6.9?
No, just 6.
Not going to even contemplate indulging me. Contemplate?
What?
It's a state of where you're not sure whether you are or are thinking about something.
You're
Contemplation.
both contemplating and not contemplating
Yes,
simultaneously.
Yeah.
I like it.
I can't even say it's been a long day. It's only the second game of the day. So they're allowing that swing towards this near side, and they may see if they can trap them there once it comes off. Denmark have shown that taking these lateral passes won't phase them, and you see that there's a little bit of lead on the option to Larsen. At midfield, the option through, always tipped back into the hands of Anderson. Got away with that one. Larsen, you can see what the option was for that pass that was nearly turned over. Just trying to float it towards the far side. The transition. Yomitslo comes underneath. Cummins with a little dish off. And, ooh, was that a push pass? Love it. Fair play, Lawrence. Now popped forward for Anderson into Yomitslo to make it 14-8. Denmark one away from the win here.
We have to say that was fortunate for Denmark. The swing pass was perhaps a little bit greedy, but then the block going straight back. See, this is just soul crushing for Switzerland.
Yeah, that handler mark on the far side. He's taking that player and he sees the thrower eyeing up the option over the top there, and he just comes back off a little bit into that lane, muddies it up. But maybe not the best decision from Anderson, but he was ready and reacted well once the disc was tipped back into his hands as the rain again comes down. I think if you're a weather forecaster here, you just say it's changeable every day, and you're probably right.
I mean, this is the third or fourth downpour
in this game alone.
In this game, let alone the previous game. I think scattered showers is putting it mildly.
Yeah. Don't know how scattered they are, but showers certainly, as that pull is ripped out of bounds.
They're still not giving Switzerland a chance to drop the pull.
I was going to say, surely they wouldn't drop it again, but I think you just said that before they dropped either of them. Or that'd be weird if you said it before the first one, because then it wouldn't be again. You know what I mean. Disc is going to be brought in from the brick mark here by Mark Schwartz. Big pump fake from Polmeyer. Travel called. He wanted the throw and go and then just didn't actually end up releasing it. The lefty Schwartz goes through. Gadamian now just outside the end zone. Sevries punched in. No. Brilliant layout block there from Nikolai Tarp. Third block of the game, I think, that now.
Yeah, Switzerland are hanging on. Looking to get some more points on the board.
Threaded down the line, now central. Ripped, trying to end it in one, but they're not quite going to be there. However, the next pass comes through. Rosendahl for Harbu's third goal of the game. Denmark polishing off a 15-8 win here. A consummate victory for the Scandinavians.
Yep, dominant performance from Denmark. They did look like the better team all game long. And even though you could say in a few moments they were somewhat fortunate, I think as you said to me before this game, Benji, you make your own luck. And
there's the block, just tried to squeeze it through the narrow window, did Rees, and it was well recognised and emphatically laid out to block it, did Tarp, and then just playing with speed after the turn. Swiss defenders trailing in coverage, and a little just fluttery toss pass for the goal in the end. As the heavens have really opened here now. I think maybe they might appreciate getting out of the rain in relatively short order. Just going to give you a quick update on what else we've got going on here today on ulti.TV's coverage of hashtag EUC 2023. Spain versus Israel in the open division is coming on behind us right now, and you can go and watch that live on our YouTube channel. At 1 o'clock, Finland versus Slovakia mixed, Sweden versus Spain women's, and Sweden really pushed Germany in their opener this morning, so that maybe people have been underestimating Sweden. At 3 o'clock, Great Britain versus Italy mixed, after Italy had a tight win over Latvia this morning, 15-12, and Great Britain polished off Hungary 15-3. France versus Netherlands in the open division, and if you didn't see Limerick Late Night Live from 55 last night, Luca Bouchon and Johan van der Woude talking some smack to each other ahead of that game. It's well worth checking out. 5 o'clock, last round of the day. Sweden versus Slovenia in the open division, and before Belgium and Norway mixed. That is what we've got coming up on the dock. We'll let you get into the booth and out of the rain.
It's perfect.
I'm going to try this, and apologies if I've been getting it wrong, because it means I've been getting it wrong for most of the game. Loritz Jametslo.
Oh, that was perfect. It's exactly how my parents pronounce it.
Back of the net.
Yeah.
I mean, we won't talk about whether your parents are right or not.
No.
15-8, a nice win to start off with.
Yeah. It was like we had a lot of tough drops yesterday. We had a practice game against Holland, and we just agreed yesterday evening that that was not going to happen again, and I think we succeeded in that. So we just went out in the wind early and just chucked as hard as we could at each other, and I think we had 1-2 drops. We had some of the deep ones that didn't go that well, but other than that, I think we did pretty comfortably. You
generated turns relatively frequently defensively, going with a couple of different defensive looks. There was one especially with kind of a flatter three that really seems to cause Switzerland problems. What do you think the key is to making that defense in particular work?
I think in this wind particularly, like, you just want the offense line to be out there for as long as possible, to have to throw, have to be a little bit nervous with the wind. So I think we just played it rather conservatively, make sure they could only swing it, they couldn't get it through, nothing easy, and then we trusted that they weren't going to throw some hammers and scubas and stuff.
Obviously, as we can see now by the fact that it is pouring down, very changeable conditions this week.
Yeah.
Have you had any tactics in mind specifically to try and combat that up, or ways to try and keep the energy high even when the rain is pouring down?
Not beforehand. I think in Denmark it's been so nice weather the whole summer, so I think we've played on really hard fields and no rain. So for us it wasn't even in our mind it was going to rain this much. So I think what we did was the first day we had one car, and that went to Decathlon I think 5 or 6 times. And then we just bought rain gear for everybody, and then hopefully that will help a little bit.
I can tell you that there will be a fair few teams, including us, who have gone out to the various stores. We did a big welly run a couple of days ago.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's going to be a lot of that in action. What are your aims for the whole tournament?
I think we were a little bit unsure whether we were going to field an open team. Like, we didn't know who was going to coach it or what we were going to do. So I think that we're here, we're very happy about. We're a very different team from Györ. I think we have a lot of new young guns, especially from Aarhus. So I don't think we have a result in mind. We want to play every point like it's the last and win. That's it.
Amazing. Right, we'll let you get back to your teammates.
That's okay.
I was going to say, although I'm not sure with this weather that you particularly want to. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Lovely to hear there from Loritz Jametslo. After that confident 15-8 win, they polished off Switzerland in the end. A great start for Denmark. One more pool game less for them against a heavily fancied Belgium. Lou, do you think there's maybe some bits that they can take from this game into a contest where they are almost certainly going to be a heavy underdog?
Well, I think if they can figure that zone out, then it has potential to cause Belgium some problems. Although Belgium probably are a bit more likely to go for those overhead shots that he was saying they're not too worried about. So that could be quite a spicy matchup to see.
Yeah.
But Belgium are absolutely heavily the favourites in that matchup still.
Yeah, but this is a Denmark side that, people sleeping on them, I think they could certainly, quarterfinals is a very achievable target for this team if they can unlock their best, as they did at points in that contest. Thanks very much for joining our coverage of EUC 2023 here on ulti.TV. I'm going to put more layers on and get rapidly warm inside the tent. And for all of our wonderful broadcast crew, for Dice running the stats and Lou Burgess alongside Benji Reese saying we'll see you on the other side.
I know you are gonna get the best of me. Come a little closer, we can dive in deep. Oh, I'd rather be with you, baby. Even if I try and try too hard, nothing's ever enough. Even if I try and try too hard, tell me what to do, say anything, yeah. Dive deeper, dive, dive deeper, yeah. Dive deeper, dive, dive with me, yeah. I know we could fly if we just tried, if we just tried. So come on, baby, dive deeper, dive, dive deeper, yeah. Dive deeper, dive, dive with me, yeah. I know we could fly if we just try, baby, try, try, try. We can do better, baby, I believe. Come a little closer, we can dive in deep. We can do it better, baby, I believe. I believe. Even if I try and try so hard, nothing's ever enough. Even if I try and try so hard, tell me what you do now. Dive deeper, dive, dive deeper, yeah. Dive deeper, dive, dive with me, yeah. I know we could fly if we just try, if we just try. So come on, baby, dive deeper, dive, dive deeper, yeah. Dive deeper, dive, dive with me, yeah. I know we could fly if we just try, baby, try, try, try. Know what I got, know what I want. Boy, don't get me wrong. Sure, we're having fun.
Thank you.
But it don't
Thanks.
mean that I'm in love.
Yeah, ultimate.
ulti.TV.